There's a passage in Machiavelli's writings that most people overlook. While everyone fixates on his ruthless advice about power and control, buried in his observations is a counterintuitive principle that contradicts everything we think we know about strategic influence. It's a principle that, when applied ethically, transforms how people respond to you, how they invest in your ideas, and how they become willing participants in your vision without ever feeling coerced or manipulated. Machiavelli noticed something peculiar about the most successful leaders he studied. The ones who built lasting loyalty, the ones whose influence extended far beyond their immediate reach, weren't the ones who hoarded resources or demanded unwavering obedience. They were the ones who gave freely, but not randomly, not recklessly. They gave with an understanding of human psychology that was centuries ahead of its time. This is what we might call the give freely effect, and it operates on a principle that modern psychology has only recently begun to understand fully. When you give something of genuine value to another person without immediate expectation of return, you trigger a cascade of psychological responses that make them far more likely to invest in you, your ideas, and your projects than any amount of persuasion or negotiation ever could. Let me be clear about what this isn't. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about creating artificial debt or guilt. This isn't about giving something small to extract something large. Those approaches might work in the short term, but they create resentment, not loyalty. They create transactions, not transformations. The give freely effect works precisely because it operates from a place of genuine abundance and authentic generosity. Here's what happens in the human brain when someone receives unexpected value from you. First, there's surprise. The mind doesn't expect generosity without strings attached because, frankly, it's relatively rare in our transactional world. That surprise creates attention. It makes people pause. It makes them notice you in a way that no amount of clever marketing or persuasive arguments could achieve. Then comes reciprocity. This isn't the cheap kind of reciprocity where someone feels obligated to return a favor because they feel guilty. This is deeper. When you give something truly valuable, freely, and without obvious expectation, you trigger what researchers call the reciprocity norm. This is one of the most powerful social forces in human psychology. It's the force that holds communities together, that makes cooperation possible, that allows trust to flourish. People who receive genuine value from you experience a natural inclination, not an obligation, to reciprocate in some way. But the most powerful effect happens next, and this is what Machiavelli understood intuitively. When people accept value from you, when they use what you've given them, they begin to invest their own resources into the relationship. They invest attention, they invest time, they invest mental energy. And here's the crucial insight that most people miss entirely. Once humans have invested their own resources into something, they become psychologically committed to it. This is the investment trigger. It's not about what you give, it's about what they invest after receiving. When someone spends time engaging with your content, applying your advice, or implementing your insights, they're not just passive recipients anymore. They become active participants. They become stakeholders. Their identity becomes partially intertwined with the value they've extracted from what you freely provided. Think about the last time you discovered a creator, a teacher, or a brand that gave you something genuinely valuable for free. Maybe it was knowledge that solved a real problem. Maybe it was entertainment that brightened your day. Maybe it was a tool that made your work easier. What happened next? If the value was real, you probably found yourself coming back. You probably found yourself thinking about that source. You might have shared it with others. You might have eventually chosen to invest money. But even before that, you invested something more valuable: your attention, your time, your mental space. That's the give freely effect in action, and it's happening whether we're conscious of it or not. Now, let's talk about why this is an ethical approach to influence, not a manipulative one. The difference lies in the authenticity of the value you're providing and your genuine care for the outcome of the person receiving it. Manipulation involves creating false scarcity, engineering artificial needs, or providing something of minimal value while pretending it's significant. The give freely effect operates entirely differently. You're providing real value. You're solving real problems. You're improving someone's life in a tangible way. The fact that this also creates a relationship of trust and potential future collaboration doesn't make it manipulative any more than a genuine friendship is manipulative, because both people benefit from it. Machiavelli observed this in the most effective political leaders of his time. The princes who maintained power longest weren't the most brutal or the most feared. They were the ones who were genuinely useful to their subjects. They built infrastructure, they created security, they facilitated prosperity. Yes, they expected loyalty in return, but that loyalty was earned through real value provided, not extracted through fear or obligation. In our modern context, this principle translates directly. Whether you're building a business, growing an audience, developing a community, or simply trying to increase your influence in your field, the Give Freely effect offers a path that aligns success with service. You succeed by making others successful first. You gain influence by empowering others first. You build loyalty by providing value first. Let's explore how this actually works in practice, because understanding the principle is one thing, but implementing it effectively is another. The first element is genuine value. This cannot be emphasized enough. The value you provide must be real. It must solve actual problems or fulfill actual needs. Too often, people try to apply this principle with low-value giveaways or content that's merely promotional in disguise. That doesn't trigger the Give Freely effect. It triggers skepticism. When someone consumes what you've offered and thinks that was actually useful, or that genuinely helped me, or I learned something valuable, that's when the psychological mechanisms kick in. The second element is accessibility. The value must be easily accessible without significant barriers. If someone has to jump through hoops, provide extensive personal information, or sit through aggressive sales pitches to access your free value, you've already undermined the effect. The perception of freedom matters enormously. When people feel they're freely choosing to engage with what you offer, the investment trigger is far more powerful than when they feel they're being guided through a funnel. The third element is consistency. Giving value once creates a moment of goodwill. Giving value consistently creates a relationship. This is where many people give up too soon. They provide something valuable, don't see immediate results, and conclude the approach doesn't work. But the Give Freely effect accumulates over time. Each instance of value provided strengthens the relationship, deepens the trust, and increases the likelihood of meaningful investment from the other person. The fourth element, and this is subtle but crucial, is allowing space for the investment to happen naturally. You can't force the investment trigger. You can't demand that people who've received value from you now owe you something. That immediately converts the dynamic from gift to transaction. The investment happens when people voluntarily choose to engage more deeply, to invest their time and attention, to participate more actively. Your role is to create the conditions where that natural investment feels rewarding and meaningful, not to extract it. There's a common misconception that needs to be addressed here. Some people worry that giving too much value for free will mean no one will ever pay for anything. This fear is understandable but misplaced. It stems from a scarcity mindset that assumes value is finite and that giving it away diminishes your ability to create more. In reality, in knowledge-based fields and creative endeavors, the opposite often proves true. The more value you give freely, the more people trust that your paid offerings will be even more valuable. The free value serves as proof of your expertise and genuine commitment to helping others. Think about it from the recipient's perspective. If someone gives you something genuinely valuable for free, and it actually works, and it actually improves your life, what's your natural assumption about their paid offerings? Most people reasonably conclude that if the free stuff is this good, the premium stuff must be exceptional. This is particularly true when the free value requires implementation effort from the recipient. When someone invests time and energy applying your free insights and sees real results, they've just proven to themselves that your approach works. Now, they're not just interested consumers, they're believers with evidence. The investment trigger operates on multiple levels simultaneously. There's the practical level, where people have invested time and seen results. There's the emotional level, where people feel genuine appreciation and connection. There's the identity level, where people begin to see themselves as part of your community or as practitioners of your approach. And there's the social level, where people who've benefited often become advocates, spreading the value to others and strengthening their own commitment in the process. Machiavelli understood that power built on genuine service was far more stable than power built on fear or obligation. The same principle applies today in any context where influence matters. A leader who genuinely serves their team creates stronger loyalty than one who merely commands. A brand that genuinely solves customer problems creates deeper relationships than one that merely sells products. A creator who genuinely helps their audience creates more engaged communities than one who merely produces content. But here's where it gets interesting, and where many people stumble. The give freely effect doesn't mean being a doormat. It doesn't mean saying yes to every request or giving away everything you have with no boundaries. Machiavelli was many things, but naive wasn't one of them. He understood that strategic generosity requires wisdom about when to give, what to give, and to whom to give it. The value you give freely should be substantial, but also scalable. It should be something you can provide without depleting yourself or your resources unsustainably. For knowledge workers, this often means sharing insights, frameworks, or experiences that cost you nothing to replicate but provide significant value to recipients. For service providers, it might mean solving a small problem completely, rather than partially solving a large one. For creators, it might mean producing genuinely useful content rather than thinly veiled advertisements. The other crucial wisdom is understanding that not everyone will respond to freely given value with investment. Some people will take and never engage further. This is normal and expected. The give freely effect doesn't work on everyone, and that's fine. You're not trying to convert everyone. You're trying to attract and activate the people who are genuinely aligned with what you offer. Those people, when they encounter real value, freely given, will naturally invest more deeply. The others will move on. And that's actually beneficial because it means your time and energy go toward the relationships with the highest mutual value. There's also an important distinction between the give freely effect and the common advice to add value. Adding value often becomes a euphemism for being useful in hopes of future reward. It's transactional thinking dressed up in service language. The give freely effect is different. It's not about doing useful things in hopes that someone will eventually pay you. It's about providing genuine value as a core practice, knowing that the natural psychological and social consequences of that practice will include stronger relationships, deeper trust, and yes, often financial reward, but not as a direct exchange. The reward comes from the relationship and reputation you build, not from a specific calculation of value given versus payment received. In practical terms, this means shifting your mindset from what can I give that will convince people to buy to what can I give that will genuinely improve people's lives. The first question leads to calculated generosity, which people can sense. The second question leads to authentic generosity, which triggers the full force of the give freely effect. Modern research in behavioral economics and psychology has confirmed what Machiavelli observed centuries ago. Reciprocity is indeed one of the most powerful forces in human behavior, but it operates most powerfully when it's authentic. Experiments consistently show that when people receive unexpected value without obvious strings attached, they reciprocate more generously than when they receive value as part of an obvious exchange. The key word is unexpected. When generosity is expected as part of a transaction, it loses its power. When it's genuinely free, it transforms relationships. There's also fascinating research on commitment and consistency that relates directly to the investment trigger. Once people take a small action, especially a public one, they're far more likely to take larger actions aligned with that initial step. When someone engages with your free content, applies your advice, or participates in your community, they're taking small actions that begin to shape their identity. They start to see themselves as someone who engages with your work, who values your approach, who is part of your community. These small identity shifts, accumulated over time, create powerful momentum toward deeper investment. This is why the give freely effect is particularly powerful in the long term. In the short term, a hard sales pitch might generate more immediate revenue, but in the long term, the relationships built through consistent, genuine value provision create a foundation that's far more stable and far more scalable. People who've invested their own time and energy based on freely received value become not just customers, but advocates, not just audience members, but community participants. Let's address a practical concern. How do you balance giving freely with building a sustainable business or career? This is where strategy meets generosity. The answer depends on your specific context, but generally, The principle is to give freely in areas where you have abundance and genuine expertise, while creating clear value distinctions for your premium offerings. Your free value should be complete solutions to specific problems or comprehensive insights into particular topics. Your premium value should offer deeper implementation support, personalized application, additional resources, or access to community and ongoing development. The distinction isn't about holding back your best ideas. It's about recognizing that implementation often requires more than just information. It requires support, accountability, customization, and ongoing guidance. You can give the information freely while offering the implementation support as a premium service. You can share the frameworks freely while offering the detailed application as a paid offering. You can provide the insights freely while offering the community and accountability as a membership. This approach works because it respects both your need for sustainability and your audience's need for genuine value. People who engage with your free offerings and find them valuable will naturally be interested in deeper engagement if they see clear value in what you're offering at the premium level. And because they've already invested time and energy with your free material, they're far more likely to invest financially when they're ready for that next level of support. The give freely effect also compounds over time in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Every person who receives genuine value from you and invests their attention becomes a potential node in your network. They share what they've learned, they recommend you to others, they create opportunities you never could have created through traditional marketing. This network effect means that your early generosity can create returns far into the future from sources you never directly touched. Machiavelli would have understood this perfectly. The princes who built lasting influence weren't just thinking about the immediate transaction. They were thinking about the network of relationships, the reputation that spread through word of mouth, the long-term stability that came from being genuinely useful to many people. In our hyper-connected modern world, these principles operate at even greater scale and speed. There's also something deeply satisfying about this approach from a personal perspective. When you build influence through genuine service, when you create success by helping others succeed first, you're not just building a business or a career. You're building something meaningful. You're creating real positive impact. You're solving real problems. And that sense of purpose and contribution makes the entire endeavor more sustainable at a human level. Burnout comes not just from working too hard, but from working in ways that feel hollow or purely extractive. When you know you're genuinely helping people, when you see the evidence of that help in the testimonials, the success stories, the changed lives, it fuels you to keep going even when things are difficult. So how do you start implementing the give freely effect in your own context? Begin by honestly assessing what genuine value you can provide that costs you relatively little but benefits others significantly. This is usually knowledge, insights, frameworks, or experiences that you've already internalized but others haven't yet encountered. Package this value in accessible formats. Write it clearly, present it well. Make it easy for people to find, consume, and apply. Then, and this is crucial, detach from immediate outcomes. The give freely effect works over time, not overnight. Your role is to consistently provide genuine value and create environments where natural investment can occur. This means having clear next steps for people who want to engage more deeply, but not forcing those steps. It means creating opportunities for participation, but not demanding it. It means building community spaces where people can interact and invest their energy, but not requiring it. Monitor what resonates. Pay attention to which pieces of free value generate the most engagement, the most application, the most feedback. That tells you what your audience genuinely finds valuable. Do more of that, deepen it, expand it. Let the natural interest of your audience guide you toward the areas where you can provide the most value. And be patient with the investment trigger. Not everyone will invest deeply right away. Some people need to observe for a while. Some people need multiple exposures to your value before they're ready to invest their own resources. Some people need to see others investing and benefiting before they feel comfortable doing the same. This is all normal. Your consistency in providing value creates the conditions where investment becomes increasingly natural and increasingly common. The beautiful thing about the give freely effect is that it creates a virtuous cycle. As more people invest their attention and energy based on the value you provide, they become more visible participants in your community. Their presence and investment make it easier for others to do the same. The community itself becomes part of the value you're providing. New people arrive, encounter genuine value freely given, invest their own resources, and become part of what makes the community valuable for the next wave of people. This is Machiavelli's insight applied ethically and effectively in the modern world. Influence doesn't come from manipulation or extraction. It comes from genuine service that triggers natural psychological responses. You give freely, people receive value, they invest attention and energy. That investment creates commitment. Commitment creates community. Community creates sustainability. And sustainability allows you to give even more freely, strengthening the entire cycle. The question isn't whether this works. The psychological and social mechanisms are well established. The question is whether you're willing to trust the process enough to implement it consistently. Are you willing to give genuine value without immediate guaranteed return? Are you willing to build relationships over time rather than extracting transactions in the moment? Are you willing to let the investment trigger operate naturally rather than forcing it? If you are, you'll discover something remarkable. You'll discover that the path to sustainable influence runs directly through genuine service. You'll discover that helping others succeed is not just morally right, but strategically sound. You'll discover that the old Machiavellian wisdom, properly understood, isn't about ruthless manipulation, but about understanding human nature deeply enough to work with it rather than against it. The Give Freely effect is your invitation to build influence the right way, to create success that feels good because it's based on real value provided and genuine relationships built. To develop a career or business that sustains you not just financially, but psychologically and spiritually, because you know you're making a real difference in people's lives. If this resonates with you, if you see the potential in this approach, here's what I want you to do. First, subscribe so you don't miss future content that goes deeper into these principles of ethical influence and practical psychology. There's so much more to explore about how these mechanisms work and how to apply them in specific contexts. Second, and this is just as important, leave a comment sharing your own experience with giving freely or receiving value that triggered your own investment in a creator, teacher, or brand. Your insights and experiences add value for everyone in this community, and they help me understand what content will be most valuable to create next. That's the Give Freely effect in action right here, right now. I've given you these insights freely. Your investment of time to comment and engage makes this entire endeavor more valuable for everyone. Let's build something meaningful together.